So, ladies and gentlemen, what a group. Wonderful. I'm very glad you joined us this afternoon. Okay. Well, I hope I will be funny enough to have the value of being repeated. But I hope that the technique will follow. So what is the solution? Well, maybe I can switch. Maybe another micro would fit.
I think it's better if you speak.
Try this one. It's okay. It's not repetition. No. Like echo. There is a sort of maybe there is a spy out there repeating that everybody outside understands that we are really mobilized against coal, and that's why we are here. So I think it's the right time and the right place and the right people in the room to discuss about that today. There is a global momentum for fulfilling the Paris commitment. It's difficult, it's a fight, but we are there. And the global momentum to tackle really emission from coal. Over the last few days, it's working? No. So that's about flexibility. No, we have to be flexible in our mobilization. So tens of thousands of people have been down to the street calling for a future without coal and a fair transition to the low-carbon society. It's wonderful. And the European Beyond Coal campaign was launched, which is made of dozens of organizations from civil society involved from many countries across whole Europe, working to reduce pollution, ill health, climate change impacts from coal-fired power plants. What is the right place? It's less than 100 kilometers from here. I don't know if it's a lobby out there that blocks the communication. Maybe yes, no? So what's the right place? 100 kilometers from here, one of Europe's biggest open cast coal mines, the Rhenish Lignite district, responsible for 80 million tons of carbon dioxide emission a year, about 12% of Europe's total emission from coal. This year, COP in Bonn brought people together from all over the world, from industrial and vulnerable countries, to say coal is not a regional issue only or a national issue. It's a global issue, and we are all in this together. So together we have to look for a solution. And of course the solution is to understand the impact on the whole livelihoods affected people. It's the one whose lives are changed by the impact of climate change, and those whose job and communities still depend on coal. That, of course, is the main question we have to deal with. And one key question which should concern us all is how we can ensure a fair and managed transition. How we can make sure that everyone gets the benefit of the transition, be it health, better jobs, or healthier environment. Why it is the right time? German political parties are currently negotiating the agenda of the next government, and one major issue of debate is how to deliver on the Paris Agreement. At the same time, many actors in Europe, countries, regions, investors, utilities, are now focused on the coal phase-out. That's the first time. The UK is committing to exit coal. It was a very big coal-based country. It's great to see UK and Canada joining forces, calling on other nations to join them. Countries including Netherlands, France, Portugal, Italy, cities like Berlin and Munich, Companies like Dong are all taking action. In the United States, city and state governments as well as business are committed to playing their part in delivering on the Paris Agreement, as demonstrated impressively by the American Pledge Initiative this earlier on. People from civil society have got active in campaigning to end emission pollution from coal. Since 2011, US civil society has successfully helped to secure the closure or commitment to close for 50% of the country's coal-fired plants, preventing thousands of citizens from premature death-related pollution. Why do we have the right people in the room? We need people from all sectors, business, government, from civil society to join efforts together. So that we are very honored to have Michael Bloomberg today with us to provide a keynote address. Michael Foundation, Bloomberg Philanthropies, has been a strong supporter of the America Pledge Initiative, and it was really a great event earlier on this afternoon, a big thing to see in the morning America standing up for Paris Agreement. And the campaign for a transition to cleaner society. Michael recently, as you saw, confirmed that the foundation will give renewed support for the US Beyond Coal campaign, along with a major new international program of work on reducing coal dependence and promoting clean air. Michael, we are glad to have you with us today. It's America at its best.
Well, I think this work now. Everybody here? Yes or no? Is it working? Way to go. Technology works sometimes, usually, but not all the time. Laurence, thank you for that introduction and for the great work that you're doing with the European Climate Foundation, which Bloomberg Philanthropies really is glad to support. Your organization has a track record helping speed the transition to clean energy across Europe, and that could not be more important. Coal, as we all know, is a double threat to human life. It's the single biggest contributor to carbon emissions that are warming the planet, and it is also a leading cause of death and disease. Air pollution from burning coal kills more than 800,000 people every year in the world. Just think about that. 800,000 people die from the effects of burning coal. That 800,000 is more than 3 times the population of Bonn, and it's every single year. And we don't have to accept that. We just aren't going to accept that. European leaders are helping us lead the way away from coal. And coal pollution still is killing 20,000 people in the EU every year. And the more we can do to speed up that transition to cleaner energy, the more lives that we can save and the better positioned we'll be to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. Now, in my country, in the United States, we've seen how progress can be accelerated. For the last 6 years, we've been working with the Sierra Club on a campaign called Beyond Coal. Back in 2011, we set a goal of closing 1/3 of the nation's coal-fired power plants by the year 2020. 1 year by the year 2020. I'm happy to say we reached that goal 5 years earlier, and as of today, more than half of all United States coal plants, 265 out of the original 523, have closed or announced that they're closing. And if you're worried about the effects of our federal government and what the administration has been saying, I'm happy to say that since last November, the rate of coal plant closures has actually increased, which shows you just how much influence Washington has on this issue. The truth of the matter is, coal plant closures in the United States and here in Europe are happening for 3 major reasons. One is market forces. They are providing cleaner and cheaper forms of energy. Communities is number 2. They are demanding power sources that don't poison their air and the water. And 3, cities, states, and companies want to save money and protect public health. And these three forces are shifting the world away from coal, and our partnership with the Sierra Club and now with the European Climate Foundation is a ways to support that. In the United States, coal plant closures have helped us reduce carbon emissions more than any other large country over the last decade, and they are about to take us 60% of the way towards our Paris Agreement goal. So for all the talk of America dropping out and America not doing its part, the truth of the matter is we are leading the way, and that's without the federal government. God help us if they tried to help us. We've also saved an awful lot of lives. The numbers are the following. 6 years ago, more than 13,000 Americans were dying each year from coal plant pollution. Today, the number of deaths is down to about 7,500. Now, that's still far too many, but we are making real progress, and we're aiming to retire 2/3 of all U.S. plants by that 2020 date, which will save many more lives. To help make that possible, last year, our foundation helped produce a documentary film about the impacts of coal called From the Ashes, which is helping to raise awareness about the issue. We're also supporting organizations working in coal regions to help people gain skills and find good jobs in industries that have a brighter future than coal, which is an urgent challenge. A few weeks ago, our foundation made a new commitment to ensure the U.S. continues its progress away from coal despite new efforts by Washington to prop up the industry. We also want to expand our ambitions by expanding our efforts globally. So this week, we are committing an additional $50 million to support international efforts to move beyond coal, and we're starting right here in Europe because of the great opportunities that we see to make progress. Thank you. A growing number of European countries have plans to go to 100% coal-free, and we want to help them reach those goals faster, and we want to help more countries follow their lead. A recent study shows that Europe could eliminate all of its coal power by the year 2030, and that really would set a good example for the rest of the world. Last year, Portugal ran for 4 days in a row using only renewable energy. Just think, a couple of years ago, you would have been laughed out of the room if you'd suggested that was possible. The UK went an entire day without using any coal-generated power for the first time since the dawn of electricity in the year 1880. Just think about that. And last year, Belgium closed its last coal power plant, and a number of other countries have only 1 or 2 left, including France. This spring, Germany reached a new national record by getting 85% of its electricity from renewable sources for a brief period. Germany, you should know, is Europe's biggest producer and consumer of coal, so its leadership in moving to clean power really is critically important. Now, Germany is considering phasing out coal completely. That would be an incredible step. And I think if you really care, what you should do is try to call your representative, if you're German, and say, we want Chancellor Merkel to champion getting rid of coal now. Forget about the politics, it's lives. But if you don't make those calls, she's not going to hear you, and she might not do it. And this really is a tipping point right now for Germany, and Germany is going to be the leader in this in all of the EU, and the EU will be the leader for the world. Coal's days are numbered. Nobody questions that. It's how fast we can get there, because we're killing people in the meantime, and we're putting the whole world in danger, and who knows whether it's something that might get to the point where it is irreversible. It is just no rational person would continue to run the risks that we are running every day. We just have to stand up if we want a better life for our grandchildren, our children, and for us, because the climate change issue is also an environmental issue. It is the air you breathe. today. It is the water you drink today. It is your electric bill today. It is your transportation alternatives today. All of these things that we have to focus on for the long term, we also, for very selfish reasons, when you look in the mirror, have to focus on today. So I wanted to thank the European Climate Federation and all of our partners in this effort to help Europe move beyond coal. It really will make a very big difference. And now I'm going to turn this back over to you. And hopefully the microphones will work.
Thank you, Michael. And I'm even more proud that European Climate Foundation is partnering with you. I think it will be a wonderful input. We need you in Europe as well, not only in US to conduct that campaign. So thank you, Michael, and thank you to be beyond that. We have a fantastic panel, so it's very good to continue that conversation. I will present them briefly. First, Lord Adair Turner. We have Lords here, which is chic as a panel. Adair is the chair of the Energy, well, he has done many things, but he's now the chair of the Energy Transition Commission, an initiative where there is a lot of different groups, business, investors, private sector, and this commission, the aim is accelerating change toward low-carbon systems. And Adair was the first chairman of the UK Committee on Climate Change from 2008 to 2012. And one of the first recommendations of this climate change committee was there was no role for coal in UK without CCS from the early mid-2020. And I think, Adair, you have not only you are pushing that and you are the father of that recommendation, but I think you're doing even better than what you said in this particular moment. We have Jochen Flasbarth. Jochen is the State Secretary of the German Ministry of Environment. He has played a very, I can testify, a very important role in the Paris negotiation. He has been a wonderful colleague during the intense times, but even more, he has been a strong advocate for a very strong climate plan, together with all the government his government last year, and the long-term plan of climate in Germany, which is really going to almost net zero emission by 2050, is Jochen's contribution. Jennifer, dear friend, you are now the executive director of Greenpeace International. Well, I can't present Jennifer, everybody knows her. She works on climate change and civil society for so many years. Again, a close ally in getting Paris done. So a very good panel, the right people, after the brilliant introduction of Michael. Adair, first, do you think people are ready? In the circles in the efforts you are, in the conversation you are handling with business, industry, and investors on how to decarbonize our societies, when you look at the figures and the UNEP report, etc., we just commented that earlier on, do you think they are ready, the business and investors are ready?
Well, I think people are increasingly aware of the facts, the mathematics of this, and the Energy Transition Commission, which, as you said, Laurence, is a sort of coalition of the willing of major companies from many industries, major NGOs. In our first report, one of the things that we made absolutely plain is that if you want to be serious about 2 degrees centigrade, let alone 1.5 degrees centigrade, we are going to have to get rid of coal fast. The simple fact is that by 2040, if we are to have any chance of meeting well below 2 degrees centigrade, coal use around the world has got to fall by 80%. But it's even more dramatic for the developed countries than that, because that's total coal use. And at the moment, we don't quite know how to make steel without coking coal. So that means that thermal coal, the coal that goes into power stations, has got to come down by about 90% by 2040. And we're not going to be able to stop places like India burning some coal. So essentially, if we are serious about well below 2 degrees centigrade, developed countries which can easily afford it have got to get out of thermal coal use within, well, pretty much immediately, within the next 5 or 10 years. And bluntly, Any country which goes and makes grand commitments to the Paris climate commitments and has not got a plan for getting rid of coal is not being serious and has got to be told that it's not being serious. So I think it's hugely important now for Germany to make a commitment to get beyond coal. And I think that's particularly important, not just for what has to happen in the developed world, but as an example to the developing world. The ETC, the Energy Transition Commission, our big project over the next year, or one of two big projects, is about Indian decarbonisation. It's about convincing the Indian government that they can move beyond coal. We won't get them to get rid of the existing coal plants immediately. That will take time. But we want to convince them that all of the expansion of their energy system, their electricity system, from very soon can be driven by renewables. We think if you look at the costs of batteries, of wind, of solar, that is completely economically possible. But there's a lot of complex politics to convince India that that's the case. But there's also an international environment. And if we have major developed countries which are still sticking to coal, it's going to be much more difficult to persuade somebody like the Indian government, with much poorer people, with large coal miners in particular parts of the country, that they ought to move beyond coal as well. So the biggest thing that the Energy Transition Commission is doing over the next year is working on an Indian decarbonisation vision. But I think an announcement next week on Germany that they have a commitment to go on beyond coal will be very important. As for the business community, Laurence, I think the vast majority of the business community, other than some people who produce thermal coal and want to keep producing it, understand the figures, stare at the mathematics, and know from what is happening to the price of renewables and batteries that we don't need coal. Because the other thing that we've done in the ETC over the last year is clearly demonstrate that from now on it will be completely possible within 10 or 15 years to build systems which are 80 or 90% dependent on intermittent renewables. The idea that you need baseload, as it's sometimes called, to balance a system, if somebody tells you they need baseload, they don't understand the way that the electricity system is going. And I think most of business understands that as well.
No, and I recommend everyone to look at the report because it's a sign up with many companies. It's really impressive to say we can go 100% renewable for the power sector. That's a big achievement. And thank you for that, Adair. Jochen, you have been behind Energiewende. Of course, everybody looks at Germany, and that's why we are here, isn't it? And so how you see that, what kind of arguments, what kind of vision for Germany can convince this new coalition to go forward? We understand the problems. I just introduced the issues that transition is, of course, a key word here. How to do that and how to help you, because I know you are behind all this. So,
thank you, and also thank you for your kind words. I mean, what happened over the last years, also during the last governmental period, was we made progress on renewables. We do have now 35% renewable electricity in our grid. And it's not long ago that a friend of mine in the US told me, you will never be able to run an economy like Germany with the radiation of Alaska. We can, it's possible, and not only the 35%, it's also possible to do the 100%. And the commitment is there already. It's not a lack of commitments. We also have a commitment to get out of coal because we have a climate change target, a climate target for 2050, as you quoted, to be close to greenhouse gas neutrality at that time. So whoever tells that greenhouse gas neutrality is possible with coal in the grid is simply wrong, and it's so obvious, and it means that we have to be out of coal completely. Just logically, not talking about the 2 or 1.5 degree, means that during the next 20 years we have to be out of that. I agree that it can be done faster. We have to look then at the dynamics of renewables again. We slowed it a bit down, for my feeling, too much, because then you need renewable electricity for vehicles, for housing. So we have... This country, as most of the other countries, will be more electric than they were used to be. And that means get rid of coal and dynamically extend renewable energy.
Thank you, Jochen. I think that this vision of how the future is looking like is really important. But we'll come back to both the transition and the future. But I wanted to ask Jen, your feeling, Jen, on one, explaining why Greenpeace has decided to go really strong on coal now and really in Europe and outside. But how you see civil society, the societies reacting to these sort of objectives?
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here. And I think part of what I wanted to do is bring people into the room, because there are people all around the world who want clean energy and they want to move away from coal. And they want to do that because of the air pollution issues we've heard about. There's water pollution issues, and they get it. They get the link between coal and climate change. And so you saw them here in the streets last weekend. I'm glad it was sunny last Saturday. The photo. There we all are. But you also see them in places like Poland. You know, we always hear how challenging or the issue of Poland is. But in Poland, there are little small communities that are fighting tooth and nails to keep their communities together. They're doing referendums against coal mines coming in. There's schools that would have been wiped out that now, working with us and local communities, are getting solar panels. And what we're seeing is actually a renewed movement that's being built that needs to come in and shift the power, because whether it be here in Germany, where power on coal is in the wrong place, or in other places, we need a Beyond Coal campaign. And the other part of people that you've mentioned, but I really want to bring in is the transition, right? We know that we need a future where people can shift from one job to the next, and that it's a managed transition for them. And Greenpeace and other environmental groups are very supportive and want to work with unions, are working with unions across the world to make that happen. But we know 1.5, you don't get there without coal. And Europe, coal-free by 2030, has to be the reality. And we're here in Germany, so I just hope everybody heard Michael Bloomberg's call to get in touch. Get in touch, get in touch, get in touch.
Thank you, Jen. Jochen, the question of transition, of course, is a key issue for Germany. I don't see so much discussion about the future, but how we get there and how you deal with communities and their specific regions. And that's so important that what Jen mentioned, that the connection between the environmental movement and the labor union are so important. It was not seen that before, and that is key. But probably how you see political compromise or the way to explain transition, how you see that the policy instrument that can be used to, in a way, deal with a real problem of people that have to transfer from one type of job to another. And so I suppose that's a key question of the coalition these days.
Well, I think the reasons are diverse where we are. First, we didn't really look into the facts, or many, unfortunately, didn't so. I had a discussion with the head of the German energy agency, DENA, a couple of years ago when I was leading the Federal Environment Agency, and it was whether we would have an energy gap, an electricity gap in Germany. And I mean, we are producing electricity like hell. We have a huge overcapacity and pumping it into the grids of our neighbors. Sometimes they like it, but mostly they are not happy. In France, you are happy when your nuclears are down for whatever reasons. But usually, I mean, this is a stupid situation. And the second one is maybe we had a lack of polarized discussion. It sounds crazy in Germany, but everybody felt comfortable to be in a country where climate change policy is mainstream, and everybody could say, yeah, I agree. But we didn't get it right, and I think now people realize that it is about 100%. It's not about just going for half of it, and that means a completely change in what we have to do. As Adair said, it's not only about the electricity, it's also how to produce steel or concrete or others, and that makes it even more urgent. So I think everything is on the table now. I think the polarization at the very first days when they started in this incoming coalition were, for me as a little bit an expert, really a little bit crazy because I saw that they are sitting in different galaxies. But now I think they have the chance to bring the things together. There is a lot of pressure from society, not in all of the regions. And of course, finally, to your point, we have to do it in a just way. Otherwise, democratic systems will be reluctant because they fear illiberal forces, and we see these crazy guys coming up. We saw it in the US, we see it in parts of Europe. At the moment, they are limited in Germany, luckily, to something around 10%. And of course, we don't want to see this share to increase. So the miracle is how to do it in a just way that people really feel that New York sentence, we will leave nobody behind, does not only apply for the developing world, but that is also valid for the transformation process in developed countries.
Thank you. Adair, in the discussion in ETC, I just came very late in the process, so I don't know exactly how the discussion went. But when you listen to the energy debate in many circles, you see that now people are saying, yes, coal will be phased out, but then we will go for gas to do the sort of the base load for renewable energy. And I see this discourse coming in even more and more. Of course, we see now, of course, a big number of oil companies saying, yes, coal is not the solution, gas is a solution. So what was the ETC assessment of that, and how you see we could, in a way, analyze really what is behind this scenario and why, hopefully, we don't need it?
Well, let me give you some thoughts for the ETC, but also answer the same question from the UK debate, because it's an important one, the role of gas. One of the things that we did in the UK Climate Change Committee, and you mentioned it already, is do some work up front that said, if we are serious about 80% reduction by 2050, the thing we definitely have to do is begin by decarbonising our power system and then unleashing electrification of road transport, etc. And we set a target. We said we've got to have grams per kilowatt hour of the UK electricity system below 100 by 2030 and basically 0 by 2050. And again, there's just some maths in this. You can run the maths, and if you don't achieve things like that, you're not going to achieve your overall targets. Now, the essence of that is there can be a role for gas, and of course it's good at any one time to move from coal to gas, but you've also got to have a vision of getting beyond gas or having gas as a very small element. I mean, think about getting down. The UK in 1990 was 800 grams per kilowatt hour. By 2010, it was 550 grams per kilowatt hour, grid average. It's now 250, and I think we're going to get to the 100. Now, 250, gas is 300 grams per kilowatt hour. Coal's about 800. Well, that tells you if you're going to get below 100 and then you get it to 50 and 0, you can only have so much gas in the system unless the gas itself has a CCS at the back end of it. So I think, again, I do think it's incredibly important to engage individuals and people. It's also important to bring to bear the facts and to face people with the facts. The fact is that if we are to get the decarbonisation of power systems that we require, we have to get rid of coal, and we have to either limit the role of gas to peaker plants, making up for the flexibility challenge of the last 15% or so of the system, or we have to CCS the gas. And I think the great thing about the ETC is we established right up front, you can't be a member of the ETC unless you are committed to the Paris climate objectives, and you also have to be committed to facts. You have to be committed to fact-based analysis. You're not allowed to say, I am committing to Paris, but I'm not committing to the mathematics required to get to Paris. And I think that's part of the discipline that has enabled us to get a disparate coalition. Now, we have different points of view as to how big a role gas can play in transition. And one of the things that's helped the UK get down from 800 to 255 is, broadly speaking, we're almost out of coal now. We'll be completely out by 2025. There'll be no coal in the British power system by 2025. And it's getting smaller and smaller, as Mike Bloomberg said earlier. Part of what's driven that is a shift from coal to gas, simply because we now have a carbon price. We have a carbon price of £18 per tonne. low 20s euros per ton. And the moment you have a carbon price like that, people start cutting down the coal and putting gas. We've got to go beyond that by more renewables, because that will be required to get down from 250 to 100 and still lower.
We will have a Q&A question, and certainly we can tackle the nuclear issue. I wanted to, three of you, in a way, we see that we have been locking the coal because of the vision that we needed that. And now we have to look on the future. We see that already, we see the capacity, at least for the power, to go to a very high level, 100 renewables. And then there is other sectors. And in a way, how much we have to have a long-term view of where these European societies should look like, or what do look like, and how, in a way, to have citizens buy in that vision. Jen, how you would do that in your day-to-day job and in Greenpeace job? Not only being in campaigning against what you do very well, but you do as well say what we are looking for.
No, it's absolutely fundamental, because although we know we need to move away from coal, the move away from coal to something else is actually quite exciting and has a huge amount of opportunities for jobs and for entrepreneurs and for small businesses and for people, because if you move into an energy system that's much more decentralized, you can have much more people power in how they actually generate and independence on that. So I think, particularly if you think about Europe right now, and I think one way of engaging is what is, on a higher level, Europe's role in the world right now. Europe's role in the world has been about peace and stability. And peace and stability right now are being completely rocked by climate change and by other things. So if you look at how people are going to feel a sense of stability across Europe, who they need to be working with, you look at how they're going to get their kids to work, to school, actually, and show what you see in Germany on the parts of the renewables side of things, how life can actually have a much better quality with lower air pollution, with less sitting in traffic jams, et cetera. You can really get there. But then you need to boil it all the way down to each individual, what they can do, and engaging people in politics. Because at the end of the day, the facts are clear. We know that coal doesn't make sense for economic reasons, but it's the entrenched interests, it's the power dynamics that are keeping us from making things happen. And if I think about Germany right now, there's a proposal on the table for these negotiations that wouldn't get us there. They're calling about a 50 million ton kind of amount for coal phase out. We need 120 in order to close the gap, according to Agora and Energiewende. So I think you need to combine what people can do in their lives, but also find ways that they feel that they make a difference. Because I'm convinced right now in the next week in Germany, if we don't have more engagement on the FDP, which is blocking, on the Chancellor herself, we won't get there. And this coalition that's been built for the Europe beyond coal, I think the other key thing is to connect people. This is 28 countries wide, multiple organizations. It's not just Greenpeace. It's Friends of the Earth Germany. It's Climate Action Network. It's Banktrek. It's a whole bunch of groups. It's unprecedented collaboration. And each of us can bring our strengths to make it real for people and have them engage.
Oh, and I'm very, very proud that European Climate Foundation, I'm very new to that organization, but that is really supports that from now many, many years. So I'm a newcomer, but I'm really excited about that. Jochen, how you see Germany, of course, is, we see this discussion out there. We are at COP23. It's not always easy discussions. Germany has a role to play. Europe has a role to play, of course, and you know that. And how much this can be how you think that Germany as a country, together with others in Europe, can really stand up and have a global leadership. And I think it's a component of this coal issue. It's not, as I said in the beginning, it's not only regional or national, it's a global issue and a concern. And so I think that would be really, really good to see how you feel that the German government, the German political system can stand up to that.
Well, not the easiest thing as an outgoing vice minister of this government to give advice to those which will come in. But I think we have to combine two things. And the one is, and I know that we both of us like this idea of the long-term strategies, and this is really needed. Otherwise, you get into the wrong technologies. If you ignore the fact that in the long run we have to be fully decarbonized and greenhouse gas neutral, you go for solutions that will not fit for over decades. And the second one is to translate this into action. And what I saw during the last years at the Conservative Party side, but also unluckily in my own party, is that whenever you just in a short run want to respond to those people who are affected negatively and try to avoid this, because you fear your lack of support from your voters, then this is not the strategy forward. You have to create a vision that a country can provide much more opportunities to the people. If you don't do this selling part, this marketing of a new economy that fits to the climate necessities, but also provides wealth to people in a just way, then you will be always behind, and then the illiberal forces will be always better than you in advocating. So I just want to encourage the new ones, be outspoken on that, be attractive, and don't be too shy against those who will criticize.
I think that's a very important point, that anyway, any government or any political discussion, by the way, is really pointing to the long term and how the society would evolve, because we need that, and we need to give courage to the politicians, and that's not only them, but of course the society around. We have some minutes for Q&A, so I don't know how the micro will work, and if somebody can just move the micro around. Hi, Linda. There is one. I have two questions there, and three. Okay, so. Thank you.
Ja, danke schön. Christian Miel, Spanische Zeitung, Klimaretter. A question for Laurence. Michael Bloomberg financed basically an army of Sierra Club lawyers in the United States to take out all these coal-fired power plants. Now, how are you going to use the 50 million you got from Michael Bloomberg? What's the approach? How are you going to take out European power plants? Thank you.
Well, sorry, it was not 50 million. I will not manage it. I'm sorry. I would be happy to manage a 50 million. Maybe will be much less. But anyway, we will do our best with the money we have. I don't know if it's a NORIA. I think in every country, the local organization know what to do. But in a way, that's very simple. You see them, in the photo. And it's coal as the ISO. There is a global issue. That's science. There is a technology as well. But now then there are politics of it, and it's about relation with a citizen in the cities, the political discussion in the countries, and that's really up to the organization to decide. So that's very simple for us, ECF. We are supporting the ones who want to move forward. And they will know what to do. We don't know what is the best. I probably have some ideas for France. I've certainly not a good idea for Germany, certainly not for Poland or elsewhere. So in a way, that's very simple. It's we are behind the organization. They have organized already very, very well, so I don't think they need any advice. So we're just there to provide with some fuel. Unfortunately, not that big amount, but still reasonable, I hope. So that's my response. Yes? You wanted to? No?
Hello.
Yeah?
Hi there. Really appreciate all the points, some really good stuff here. I just want to ask the question about the pace that we need to decarbonise the environment, and what's your opinions on using all the tools we have at our hand to make that happen as fast as possible? And one of the tools that I think has not been mentioned, and I'm very surprised, is using nuclear energy, because it's a low-carbon energy source. So just want to understand the views on using that to decarbonise the environment, and what's your opinion?
I don't know who wants to respond. That's not it's not best that the French respond to nuclear. No, I can, of course I can, but maybe it's not the best. But you have decided, you have made decision on that, no?
Well, I didn't touch on that one, but I want to be crystal clear on that. I don't assess the nuclear option to be a sustainable one at all. We are not missionaries in Germany. We are not missionaries in Germany. Other countries will make their experiences. I doubt that it is an economic option, and definitely at the end, when I leave my job, I will move over to deal about the nuclear waste from Germany. And I can tell you, this is not sustainable at all. This is not sustainable at all. So we don't make this point aggressively because we don't want to be seen as those who want to finger point to others and, with the intention that people don't talk about our coal. That's not the case. But still, I personally believe that this is the wrong way forward, and I'm happy that our society has decided on into the other direction.
Yeah, I will make the point assertively. There's no reason to switch one risk and go and pick up another one. And you don't need to go there. Actually, in the German case, Greenpeace Germany has done research with Brainpool that shows a plan of how you can take coal off at the same time that Germany is doing a phase out of nuclear power, step by step, overcapacity issues that State Secretary was talking about, increasing renewables, increasing efficiency, and creating opportunities for people. So it's very possible, and we shouldn't be going from one risk to another. We should be reducing risk across the board. It's just, it's really clear.
Well, we were doing very well to this question because everybody was agreed on everything. I have a slightly different point of view. I'm completely open-minded about nuclear, and I would not phase out nuclear ahead of its useful life where it exists already. And I think by making it harder, just harder for Germany to get to coal-free, because it's just created an extra challenge, that has probably been a bad move for the global environment. That's my point of view. I think that it's pretty unlikely that new nuclear is going to play, at least large new nuclear, is going to play a major role. I used to think it might, but the relative costs have changed dramatically, and we're now seeing onshore and offshore wind and solar very significantly below the cost of new nuclear. So as an open-minded person on this, I think if renewables give us an alternative which does not involve new nuclear, then let's go down the renewable route. I think the two issues that I would urge the sort of green movement to be open about are small nuclear plants. It may be that there are ways of doing those which are much cheaper and which deal with a lot of the risks related to them. And amazingly, I used to think that fusion was one of those things which has a great future and always will have a great future. But there are people in the technology who now tell me that the application of artificial intelligence to the modeling of how fusion could work really raises the possibility that we may be able to develop fusion and small fusion, and I don't think we should exclude it. So I am a person who is not in principle against nuclear, though I would agree that the economics do not look favorable to new nuclear, given what has happened over the last 10 years to the price of wind and solar and batteries, etc.
I could go on about this, but I'll respect the moderator's prerogative.
No, but we could have a sort of a debate beyond nuclear, which is a new one, a new debate. Yes, I have 2 or 3. Thank you, Thank you.
To Adair Turner. Well, don't you think that going to nuclear and to gas and is really the wrong way about that the British government is going on today? And we'll be moving out from coal, but going on to gas and nuclear is really the wrong way. So I don't understand why you will be supporting that here.
Because time is running short, so if we take 3 questions, you 3, and then we got or 4 questions, and that's it. Short. Yes, please.
Thank you. Lord Turner has already mentioned how you get rid of coal. You put a carbon price on it. We've just had an ETS market reform this week, which hopefully will deliver a high price. But we've also got the Netherlands now following the UK with a minimum carbon floor price. France, President Macron is talking about this as an idea. It seems to be an idea whose time has come. I'd like to ask the outgoing minister whether he thinks the next German government might be prepared, along with France and some other northwestern European countries, to put a minimum price on carbon, because that's how you get rid of coal.
A very good discussion between France and Germany. Yes?
Okay, I have a question, sorry. I'm Benjamin from Heidelberg.
Where are you?
Here on
Okay,
top.
sorry.
Hey. And you talked a lot about justice in your panel discussion, but what I missed a bit is like the international perspective, because we talked about just transition in Germany, but how many years do we have for that just transition, and how many lives will be destroyed abroad?
Thank you. And we can't just applaud you for what you said. Yeah, please.
I'm Dale Wen from Renmin University, China. My question is, like right now in the negotiations, there's lots of debate about pre-2020 actions. That's one of the very contentious issues in the negotiation floor. And also looking at the situation in Germany, it's like right now it looks very unlikely for Germany to achieve its 2020 target. So I want to ask the panelists, like if you want Germany to be a leader, it's like what needs to happen in Germany, at least for Germany to achieve its promised 2020 target?
A very good, of course, question. So I think because its time is running short, I think I'm almost exhausted in our time. So if I want to give 1 minute to each of you, pick up what question you want to, and I will try to finalize responses if you did on. Jen, begin.
Justice first. Thank you for bringing that in. Actually, just this week, there were Pacific Islanders out at Neurath putting up a big projection about what's at stake for people around the world. Is it RWE shareholders against people's lives? Come on, let's get serious about justice in these negotiations. So that is fundamental. And 2020, Germany, lots more to do, and coal is actually the biggest place that they can make the difference. Between 3 and 4 next week, Wednesday, Chancellor Merkel is going to give her speech. She has to come and say she understands the science as a scientist, as the chancellor, and signal that she and her party will support a coal phase out by 2030 as part of these negotiations, or there is no credibility for Germany left in its international role.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Adair, I'm sure she knows the numbers, so it will be a very good moment to listen to her.
Well, the UK's electricity back in 1990 was 800 grams per kilowatt hour. 5 years ago, it was 550. It's now 250. Germany's is still 550. The UK is actually doing better than most European countries at bringing that down. And I'm absolutely confident we will meet our target of being below 100 by 2030 and effectively getting to zero by 2050. On the transition, there has been a switch from coal to gas, but there's also been a big build-up of renewables, and the biggest thing that I'm arguing for in the UK is a big further boost to renewables. In particular, the cost of offshore wind is collapsing, and I think the one thing that Britain has lots of is an offshore wind resource. So that's the big argument of how we then go to the next stage. But one of the great things is once you give yourself a target, and you make it a legally binding target, and you create an institutional structure to hold you to the target, you can't stay with gas long term. I mean, you can all work out the figures. If you've got 50 grams per kilowatt hour across the whole of the system, and gas is 300, then the most it can be is 16% of the total system, even if the rest is zero. So I think we are on a path to get there. And I would just say, and it was the point I made, entirely agreeing with Jennifer, I think Germany has to commit to go beyond coal, because I don't think it can say that it is committed to the Paris climate objectives unless it says it's going beyond coal and going beyond it quite fast.
So on the pre-2020, number one is, of course, we will meet our Doha obligation. There is no doubt about that. And I think we have to be serious in looking then into other parts of the world as well, including China. You are doing a lot, but you can also do more. The US, not to talk about the US, so that is one thing. The second thing is nothing to add about the credibility, what Jennifer said. I'm very interested to listen to the Chancellor next Wednesday. Minimum price. I'm in favor of such an instrument, but we have to do it in a very different way than the UK did it. It was good for the UK, but it damaged the European ETS, because as long as you're in an ETS system which with a cap valid for all countries, then it is, a little bit selfish. So we were always advocating for a European minimum price. Then, of course, this will work to make a fuel switch. Then, by the way, it has to be higher than 18 euros, and it has to be around 35. And to the question of justice, I mean, we were approached many times, rightly so, that Germany has to deliver, that we are relevant not only for what happened in our country, because we are seen as a front runner, and of course then a front runner has to be a front runner. And to achieve that, we have to organize it in a way that we overcome obstacles in our own country, and an unjust way to do it is definitely an obstacle, and therefore I believe it is important to go along this way.
Thank you, all of you. I would like to add my reflection, and of course we know outside we have a lot of discussion on are we really all together, or are we opposing again and again between the different countries and finger pointing? I think on one side, and that's true, coal is a global issue, like global emissions are there. And of course, we are to do much more and to accelerate and to raise ambition. But at the same time, we have to embed this low carbon vision into the societies. We cannot be just in our circles here talking about climate when people don't even understand what we are doing about and what we are talking about. So that's why we have to understand the politics in each country. That's why I think we have to both recognize what Germany did many years ago for renewable energy, and at the same time the difficulties they are facing. Like we have to recognize the difficulty for India to go beyond coal, or for China, or for France to go very different routes. I think that's the moment. It is a very important moment in global politics. And you may understand, I'm really keen to have Paris Agreement implemented. That's my baby. But we have to do it in a way that we are not implementing against people, against societies. Because it will not work. If we don't do this deep transformation with the buy-in of society citizens, and the cities and the local people, we will never get there, because that's too big a change. It's not about a paper. It's not about an agreement. It's not even about the political consensus here. It's much beyond that. So I think we have to move from really saying you should do that to how we do that together and much faster. How we encourage the ones who want to go faster. How we support the ones in the cities, in the business, that really want to go much faster, and how we support them, and how we support the civil society to do the job, to convince everyone that it's an opportunity, it's a better future, because for local reasons, but of course for global reasons. I'm sure that even in the deepest affected region in Germany, people have a sense of their global responsibilities too. So I think that's important to give that sense that we are really working in a collaborative way to that future. If not, it will never work. And I hope, and it's a message in a way for my colleagues negotiating out there, I hope we have to change the tone. We have to really go back to what we achieved together in Paris, which was we are doing those all together because we believe it's in our own interest. So I think beyond coal is in our own interest, and we have to demonstrate that. Thank you for being there. Thank you for going work.